each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
Welcome to another Living the Mystical Life Daily Webcast. Welcome everyone, come on into the chat room. Today I'm going to have a different thing today. I'm going to still teach the Living the Mystical Life Daily, that loud name it to claim it system, but I'm going to let you ask me questions about what I do in this couch or virtual studio or desk, how I live my mystical life daily. So for those callers that are in the call room right now, you must rethink what you're going to ask me. If you're not going to be asking me about my living the mystical life daily, wait to the next call to call in. I, as a teacher, as a person, and as a human being, have been living the mystical life daily for decades. The whole point that I made a course is so that you could do it. There are multiple call-in shows. There's anywhere between 20 and 30 and 50 people in the chat, in the call room. We take 2 to 3 calls per show. Please be respectful. Call once per month. Every part of living the mystical life daily means you have to do it. I am not your teacher. I am not your keeper. I am not your brother or sister. I am a person presenting sacred discipline versus recreational. I'm doing this form of teaching today to show perspective and the type of perspective and feedback that I would like. For if there is a special caller that asks me the special question about my living the mystical life daily, and they don't make it an instant gratification question about themselves, I will give another special bonus to that person to be able to come to that event. I am looking for the geniuses of the geniuses out there. And I know you guys are there. It's a matter of you going to do the altruistic, non-instant gratification question during these webcasts versus the normal call-in shows. Many people in the call room have been given a link and say, call in as fast as you can, and haven't even heard one webcast. I enjoy when those people come, but there's a perspective here. All of you that have been listening week after week after week, practicing week after week. And why aren't you calling in? Why aren't you being that next genius? How do I live this mystical life daily? Many times over many shows I have stated that I do 20 hours a month of my own personal ceremony to be able to function and operate at this level. That is my personal choice and the amount of time, effort, and energy that I put in. Sometimes I do all that 20 hours in a day and a half or 2 days, knowing full well that my intent, my focus, my repetition with illumination, and the previous ceremonies that I've done are part of that next month or week's process. There are times when I have the right amount of energy, effort, and inner cunning within myself that I may do 6 or 7 months in that 20 hours, because knowing full well I'm going through a personal expansion. There is where the geniuses of the world can ask, how can your individual personal expansion be supported by these rituals? Awareness of time and space and what drives emotions and motions. Earlier in the month of September, I took an entire day aside and went to all of my calendar points and sent myself and knowingness the torch of eldership to each of my future selves that would be in these shows, as well as the sub-processes of looking into a potential future as a legacy to the future self that is no more than a weather forecast. Me understanding this weather forecast helps me understand each individual show that comes. Before a show comes, there is me and my process of speaking to whoever's physically here in the room with me, but also in that unseen process, I am peeking into the potentials of the Akashic Record. Who could call? and looking at that weather report of the type of mood, of energy that's come. These webcasts are about teaching at a higher level. And I want to be able to engage the audience at a higher level. So for this webcast, if you want to know your galactic history, wait till the next show. If you want to ask me individual questions about living the mystical life daily, how it can change and expand your life, with truly altruistic questions that can help everyone, those are the types of callers that I want to have. Those are the types of questions I want to see in these webcasts. Living the mystical life daily is your choice. And I am now offering a chance at equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order with the frequency signature teaching being that I am. Take that, unpack that code of light, and understand who you're talking to, what you're talking to, and how I perceive time, space, and all those things that drive forward this hologram. Is it an opinion? Is it fact? Only you know from your heart. I broadcast through my heart to my auric frequency, which is the Akashic record, just like you do. Everyone does it, whether you're aware of it or not. That's the uniqueness of our world, in the frequency of linear time. Linear time was strictly created for this world and this world alone. That's why when so many other beings come here, they're confused during their incarnational process, because linear time can be covered with camouflage of emotions that drive forth a hologram into a different frequency of light, where life is worthless like it is on our world now. Many of you are wanting to ask their hurricane questions. On the YouTube channel right now are 2 new videos I did with Andre Hod, Servant of Truth, that is specifically on the karma of the weather patterns, that they are time vortexes moving through rifts of space, reseeding life in new areas. We go deep in depth. Also on the YouTube channel is the whole age of industry, where I was with Andre, Servant of Truth, and he just wanted to ask me questions. And at a time where I had gone through a loss of an extremely close friend, and then another friend died, and another friend died. In a period of 5 months, 4 of my closest friends died. And I used that opportunity with Andre to just go and open it. And he recorded those things for posterity's sake. These are known as Andrew and the Raw subjects, where I just turned off the radio personality, all of the everything else, and was the raw human being in that moment. So I encourage you to go and look at that. I've done now 97 videos with Andre, and we've released about 30 of them. Those are for the people that want to go down that avenue of exploring the Akashic record, because it helps them put their puzzle pieces together. Everyone comes together for this day and this time because you have an individual puzzle piece you want. Now we're making a separation of densities. There's 2 shows to call in with whatever you want. This show is to talk about living the mystical life daily. I'm giving you callers and you question askers an opportunity to ask what I do individually, so you can see at what service and light you have to yourself and what new levels that you can make in your own goals. How to use introspection and retrospection. Ask me personal questions. Who's going to take that up? That challenge to be a championship to living the mystical life daily. So many of you are just afraid of succeeding with the daily path because it'll bring mystical experiences that you must talk to your other friends about. Put all those fears to rest. No matter what anyone says, it is just their opinion. And bluntly put, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. I use these colorful euphemisms in these moments of now because so many people are telling you, you must do this or that. You got to travel to the end of the world. You must go into a cave or monastery to find enlightenment. You must brush toilets with a toothbrush. Do you know how many people have come to me from ashrams who were brushing toilets, cleaning toilets with toothbrushes because that's what their master told them? Oh yes, all of the things. It is learning vanities. No, it is you doing slave work in repetition without self-illumination. Those old dogmatic ways have to fall to the wayside. Spiritual enlightenment is your choice. You need not go into a place to clean toilets with a toothbrush. You can find your spiritual enlightenment in the comfort of your own home if you make your home your spiritual fortress. And you have the guts, the gall to follow through and make it a fortress nothing can penetrate, but still allows you to create and explore. That doesn't limit you like an old shell. Whatever is the old way is the old way. It is what did not create transcendence, transformation. If you want to be on the transcendence, transformation path, the old ways are just the dogmas. It does not invalidate their potentials. It reveals them as dogmas that are over-illuminated. And there are other paces of illumination with other forms of reason that will lead you to a new way of remembering who you were, the truth of where you are now, and what you can actually do in this moment with your genius engaged. Okay? There are parts of you that benefit from not succeeding. Think about that. What part of you benefits from not succeeding? The ego? Your shadow? Why don't they want you to succeed? Because you've been imprinted for shame, blame, and guilt, depression, regression, and obsession? The 6 nags that drive us crazy. When we choose rejuvenation, regeneration, and recapitulation, we have a whole new way of processing our energy. A rejuvenation moment is where you make such a moment so powerful and raise your frequency so much that what you are doing in that moment is the golden tube of personal human protection, connecting you to this world, and be damned with the global narrative, because it's just a projection and a hologram of light that truly has no power over you. Everything is perspective in this transcendence, transformation, transmutation game. My goal for this webcast is to help 2 types. Those of you who are beginners, what it takes to have conscious application of the sacred, and what that really means to daily life changes. For those of you who have more experience, you'll have a more in-depth understanding and the ability to see those old shells, limitations, how to create your fortress, how to deconstruct your old fortresses. Living the mystical life daily is an out loud, name it to claim it system of deprogramming, reprogramming, because it's just a perception and light that's stored in your memories in charge and polarity. What does it take for me to pass on my story? I want those callers that are coming in to ask me my story questions. Why? Because there's a whole new level of interacting with me, a being that's been done 1,500 hours of this material, and everything you could possibly topic and think of. There's no one else out in the industry doing exactly what it is that I do. There are no peers in this field. 0. Because I am an equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical concept, non-separation being. Just like all of you are, when you allow your perception without deception filters in. Who can figure out an inner question, altruistic for the publicity of the whole audience, to ask me about my personal story? How do I connect to individuals of you if you don't make a non-hierarchical process? This isn't the judgment of any other callers. Every caller is a teacher. That's why I have an entire classic callers tab. Each and every person out there is uniquely special. And they must be allowed their opportunity to have the uniqueness frequency go forward in space-time without the expression of deconstructionism within their concept. Because so many people are stuck in deconstructionism. Excuse me a second, I forgot to turn off a device.
It's not me calling.
No, I know. It's somebody that knows they shouldn't be calling. Anyways, the things that go on in your expressions here. You know, there's the behind the scenes questions for all of you out there that are in the film industry, what it takes to do this. The types of cameras, the lighting, the whole technical system that's gone on there. Okay? I learned all this. I have a producer, Robert. I understand what all the technology does. And I'm still a person that does the shows each and every time. Really reach into your living the mystical life daily. What has brought you here to this webcast that is specifically a signature frequency teaching for the helping of the whole? All right. Let's see what the Wheel of Callers brings us today, Robert. Lack Megantic. Are you there?
Hi.
Hi,
Hi, Andrew.
Yes. Where are you calling from?
Oh, that's so cool. I knew today was my day.
Wonderful.
I'm calling from Lac Mégantic, where there's been a big, huge incident a few years ago. I think you probably heard of it. A train just rolled down and exploded in the middle of the town.
Is that in India?
And killed 42 people.
Is that in India?
In where?
In what country?
Oh, Quebec, Canada.
Quebec, Canada. I'm sorry, Quebec. No, I have not heard about the train accident.
Oh, yeah.
No.
So it's kind of a...
Yeah.
We've been damaged. People have been damaged. And I arrived here. My second year was the year when that happened. I lived in Saint-Cécile. It's like 20 minutes away from it, at the base of a beautiful mountain.
Wonderful. I'm at the base of Mount Rainier right now. So... What questions did you have about living the mystical life daily?
Oh, just the title seems good to me. I've been following a lot of your suggestions for a long time now. And I have a little book where I write the revocation I'm going to record. And I just opened it today, and I got to this little thing I wrote from one of your thousands of videos, and it's so beautiful, it's so powerful, that I just found that today. And there's so many things I would like to share with you and ask you, for everybody's sake. I like the untangled wind revocation.
Yeah.
And there's something in there where you talk about the bees clan, the protectors. I would like to know a bit more about the bee clans that can be protectors.
So the bee clans, that material stemmed from my mystery schools teaching, that is available as an ebook download, where I talk about magical schools that were leapfrogging through time, gathering powerful students from different areas of time to remote view an ancient future time. And it was a sect of those mystery schools that realized that this was grand repetition with no grand illumination in a hierarchical system where only a handful of beings would make it to the top. They separated from that mass system of destruction and distraction and found beekeeping clans that had already understood lineage-based technology, which was the path to immortality. It's what the mystery schools were using too. It's how you can live in your lineage and then become into another lineage and then come back to that lineage 3 or 4 lifetimes later, and someone in that lineage is magically potent enough to recognize the soul and make sure they read them back their memoirs from 100 years ago when they're 1 and 2, and by the time they're 3 or 4, they remember 10% of their past lives. Now imagine if you could know 10% of your past lives. You know?
Be pretty good already.
Okay. Would you make any mistakes?
Probably many.
Okay. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't make the same mistakes.
What do you mean? Maybe I misunderstood.
If you knew 10% of your past lives, you would never make a mistake with the wrong man again. You would never make a mistake with the wrong job.
You think that much?
Yeah.
Okay, with the wrong man. Yeah.
Right. Anything. What education you should go and get that lifetime? Because your awareness isn't about one lifetime anymore. Imagine waking up in a 3-year-old body with 10% of your memories of who you were the last lifetime, and somebody reading it to you to remember what your next what your lifetime is going to be. You pick up where you left off with a younger body. By the time you're 8 or 9, you're as mentally as an adult as you were before. So that is where the beekeeping clans came from, where whole herds of people left the negative mystery schools and were able to go deep into nature and find 1 hive or 2 hives or 50 or 100 hives of bees that became in dreamtime co-creation with them, because bees are dreaming entities. Dreaming itself is a form of time travel also, a non-technological and very difficult to detect form of time travel. So these whole clans that left the negatives became a neutral dreaming clan, or what we call dreamtime societies that are here to help seekers of knowledge. They are the medicine teachers. You know, when you have a plant medicine that you take, it is those at the ancient times that went into the beekeeping clan, because it's the bees that made sure everything was pollinated in the environment.
Apparently, the dens, Limeskit dens at some point after they have all the pollen. So they do use that beautiful infinite sign in the dens. When they come back to their home with the mouth full of honey, pollen.
So bees use a specialized form of physical pheromones and psychic pheromones. So as long as you are emanating non-competition, non-hierarchical order, the bees will not harm you. No, beekeepers do it all the time. It's unity, it's oneness.
Yeah, okay, I see.
It's an ancient ability that is anyone can practice. It's faith and trust in yourself. This is of your herpetologists that, you know, can pick up a snake and it'll never bite them because they know the emanation energy. The same with spiders.
You know what? Snakes and spiders are always been in my life. The spiders lately, they just live into my life like crazy. They're big, and they're like a lot of them. I think I have to control them a little bit. And I used to love small snakes when I was a teenager. I could be a bit nasty to them sometimes.
Yeah.
But now I feel I'm called to that medicine as well. Anyway, it's a powerful medicine.
One of the first medicines that I learned was bee and ant. Those
Are
were,
you serious?
yeah, when I was young and, you know, really on the path. Those were the two that revealed their most amount of information to me. The ant was the strength and endurance to get through any process, working together in the seen and the unseen world. And the bees were ants with wings. Okay?
I've got ants with wings in my greenhouse, and they're eating my salad. They're eating my tomato plants.
Yeah.
They're eating
So what those are,
and I don't know what to do.
what that is there are multiple colonies of ants that are spawning new queens to go make brand new hives. So what they are is 50% of those ants, those are male, that are, well, if a female spawns and makes a nest, they'll form with it, and then they'll shed their wings and they'll become the first workers, or they'll just pass on in an area and be the initial, because what these ants do is they carry a special fungus with them, and that fungus is actually what the larvae eat, and that's why they bring back the pollen, and it's a unique structure inside there. And each ant has a different form of mold, a specialized mold that they eat and consume, and naturally produces with them. And this is the pheromone they give off with what type of scent-based mold you have, or whatever else they're using as their process. It's a seen and an unseen world telepathy-based communication. So that is what bee and ant taught me. It's one of the big reasons I can do the Akashic Records at the skill set layer I do, because my fundamentals were that.
Ants and bees, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But those ants got to come out of my greenhouse, and now you're telling me this morning I found mold on my tomato plants.
Yeah.
They do something to my plants, and they have to respect. This is my co-creation with this land. They've got the whole forest. There's nothing around here except trees and soil.
Yeah. So there are a handful of things that you can do to get rid of those ants, and most of it's going to involve putting out some kind of all-natural pyrethrin that takes care of them right away.
I already tried running with hot water with baking soda and
No, that's not going to
vinegar.
do it. That's not going to do it. You actually got to get an organic pyrethrin. Take care of those.
Yeah, I bought one of those. It stinks like crazy. It doesn't even seem to work. They move on the other bed
they're
because
drops.
my beds are fluffy.
No, they're little drops that you just put wherever you see them walking, and then they take that to wherever they're going.
Drops? You mean like little Steve?
Little drops of like a gel.
Yeah.
It's an ant poison. That's specifically for those ants that are spawning wings.
Here. We tried so many too, and some love proteins and some love sugar.
Yep. All right, darling, I've got to move on. I've got to move on to the next caller. Thank you so much for calling in.
I'm going to listen to this again, and Drew, there was
Okay.
so much more. A Huron just was on my pile of wood while I was calling. It was so beautiful. Okay.
All right,
Kisses,
you have a
and
good one. All right.
bye. Ciao.
Ciao. So now we got some questions in the chat room. 1 second here. Question from guest 6755. Andrew, I am not the only one who has uncanny, undeniable synchronicities when hearing or watching your videos. Can you tell why this happens? Because I'm a signature frequency teacher of the moment, have been, will be, and will always be. I am a moment-to-moment being who has accepted the torch of eldership from a previous moment-to-moment being and has also passed the torch of eldership onto my future moment-to-moment living beings, because I'm all my past, present, and future beings simultaneously living. And when those have an uncanny experience with me, be it dream time or physical world, it is because they too, on that signature frequency path of being all of them past, present, and future selves simultaneously. And when something reflects that back to you, it is a form of entrainment, meaning this is what the greater soul frequency is trying to tell you as a past, present, and future living manifestation being in front of you, who you can go through inner discernment with whatever encoded forms of light there are, so you can tune yourself to be all of your past, present, and future selves simultaneously living with an unbroken chain of severe personal eldership to the great and growth of your own soul. Now that one should be turned into a clip. I will say that. That was a good one. Here's one from Laura Massey. How does living the mystical life daily help you deal with the passing of your friends? For those that have listened to the show a lot, Natalie, one of my co-hosts, dear friend, passed in October last year. A very short battle with cancer. Shortly after that, I created the rest of the Living the Mystical Life Daily online course, The Peacemaker, The Peacekeeper, within 2 weeks. And then it took about a month to edit it and practiced it at the fire nonstop. It helped me deal with the passing of each person. It helped me understand who I was previously, whether I was at the hospice with Reiki students, the burn victim wards, or until I decided to not do healing at that level, and I knew that I had to be an online radio host. When I had the urging from the spirit and the guides to look back on those moments as part of the out loud, name it to claim it, tell your story to the fire process, I told all of my old teachings to the fire. Now, for those of you that have told your story to the fire, when I do these teachings, if I say it out loud, I generally remember it. But there are times that there are certain teachings that are meant just for you. So this is why I go back and I listen to my shows over and over and over again, to have a level of familiarity of it from your point of view, because I'm just being me. I've always been this way, always been in this flow. It marvels so many of you, and you want to do it, and I'm here. Here's how I do it. So, living the mystical life daily helped me understand closure at the 4 different perspectives of those dear friends that had passed. My business went through great change to be able to do what it is that I do today. During that time that my 4 greatest friends passed, I created this course, put it online, developed an entire live event, and didn't skip a beat. Changed and healed myself, took my own next level of personal progression. That's what it did. I've done this cyclical process. I just didn't do it with the 4 of my closest friends dying. That was the new variable, and that's what the new material came out after, because innately I knew if I didn't create and create with the fullness, that each and every one of those deaths would take me away from my personal deep dealingship at the process of being a signature frequency of the moment of the now. Huh? Thank you for that, Laura. So this one's from Peter. So in living the mystical life, how do you acknowledge and live within this third dimensional phase, time, misalignment, while being multidimensional? Easy. I do radio shows that make me a fixed point in space-time. If you really contemplate that, I'm a fixed point in space-time, and I'm also a non-fixed point in space-time. The spirit or light that is inside this hologram of a body needs no medium in which to propagate. I chose to propagate. This is the separation and duality prospect. You can both be and not be simultaneously. That is how I do it. I have a job. I have Robert that's a producer that comes here. This green screen around me is in, I set it up, tear it down. I have a car. I go to do groceries just like everyone else. I have places and friends that I see. I run a business. Is it hard? Sure. Is it impossible? Only if I make it impossible. Only if I get in my own way and trip over my own junk, just like all of you. Getting to this level of success is focus, drive, knowingness, and heart space. That's all that it is. People have been successful all the time. My focus is to be at this level of personal illumination for others. Meaning my own personal illumination beyond what you see here is me distilling down to you these forms of self-illumination so all of you can be on your path. Your path without an imprint other than that of peace. The common moral code of do no harm. The ability to separate your energy from someone else's, especially when they're polluted and holding you back and siphoning your life force. What legacies you have waiting in your unseen world for you to simply acknowledge and accept them so that your seen world has a manifestation. And then there's no longer really a separation between third, fourth, or fifth density. It's all of ourselves working together. That's a great question. Thank you. Here's one from Uner. Why is it sometimes so hard to make the choice to commit to living the mystical life daily? There are an infinite amount of answers to that. But in a stereotypical 50% of the people that come to living the mystical life daily, fear. The rest you couldn't break down to 50%. There's many other sub-processes there. But fear right there in that stereotypical process. Fear that if I live the mystical life daily, all the taboos that have been imprinted on me will be projected at me, and I'll start taking on those taboos. Meaning, let's say you're living the mystical life daily is to be precognition of what's going to happen next. Or somebody else's is going to be they're able to raise and lower their body temperature and it not do damage to them. You may not think that that's a huge skill. You can kill any virus if you are able to raise your blood temperature without causing damage to the liver or the cells. Zika gone, all the viruses gone, they all live at our body temperature. This is why dogs don't get so much sickness, is that they have a higher body temperature. Conversely, if you're a person that has precognition, everyone's going to want to know what you're going to do. What are you thinking about me? And then all these subtle programs take over. So those are the examples there. It is fear that the projections from others, that they'll run you and conform you. And when in fact living the mystical life daily is rejecting all forms of conformity and being your authentic self at all times, so the mystical can flow as an unlimited point of view. Oh, that one's another clipper right there too. I have to mark that one again. This is why I love being able to take these good questions like this. Here's one from Sherry. How many ascension timelines are there? 1. Did the eclipse energy change energy or merge them like Magenta Pixie described in her Mandela Effect video? No. So no and no. Now I can expand on no and no. There is only a single ascension timeline. And whatever Magenta says is her point of view, and you're asking me my point of view, as long as you separate the emotional connectedness between what you wanted my answer to be, you'll understand why I said no. I see all timelines. There were timelines that were shut down and new timelines that were opened. And they are regularly taking people on this timeline and putting them on other timelines because they no longer serve this timeline. But there are times when you put them on the other timeline, they shape up and suddenly come back onto this timeline. That is what is going on now, the separation of densities, the bifurcation. There are some that get yanked out of the reality and go, shit, I make it up, I'm doing my work, and they get back into the reality. So there are new ones being opened, there are parallel ones being opened. It is far more than what one person is saying. Again, I'm challenging you at the scale and size at which you think. There is a surface world, a subsurface world, and an astral world that all use their own signature frequency form of time that is completely independently separate and not codependent on any other frequency of the time. Our world, human world, global narrative world, is dependent and codependent on Roman numeral time. If you understand the dependency and codependency of Roman numeral time, you understand why there's such a limited way to explain what a timeline is or isn't. Linear time itself was created solely for this reality, solely for this galactic ascension machine. It does not exist in any other place. It is what was created to resolve repetitious paradoxes in which our celestial process or arm of the galaxy, our star cluster, was stuck in a repeating pattern because we had uncreated our section of the galaxy, which uncreated the section of the universe in the perception of time of lineage-based beings who were battling themselves to prove what era of light was more potent. There is a string of time that comes from ancient eras that is still a small thread within our thread of our timeline that is still 10 trillion times more potent than any of our surface beings, because at that time beings had a whole different light era function. So until light mechanics are truly understood, these are pontificating philosophers pontificating in word salads. That will be another good one. And that's not meant as an attack. Okay? Here's one from Morgan. How can we do the Sanctuary of Souls and other meditation visualizations for our children are younger than 10 years old? Like a play or a story. Have them, if you tell them it as their bedtime story, convert it into you're meeting your friends instead in the water in the Sanctuary of All Souls, where you're in the warm pool, that it's a pool party with their friends being healing, or a spa day with the women, with the sacred feminine, so on and so forth. Make it a story they'd want to listen to, that pass on the essence of the teaching as the mother telling the story. Now, they come to a certain age where they don't want to hear the stories. Well, this is where you still have to tell the story in the form of energy that may be an out loud ritual or ceremony that has the intentions of telling them a story to their dreaming body. because their dreaming body is always listening to you. Okay, next one. Why do I keep seeing 44335511? Because you're looking for time. Womp, 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 womp. Here's one from Kay. Can you discuss interactions with your spirit guides and how they affect your daily life? Yeah, I can. So I'll pull back the curtain here. There comes to a point where you recognize, or I recognize, that one spirit guide is actually all the spirit guides, that they're a collective, and that individuals pre-require or require identity to make it a spirit guide. I've reached the point where I don't need the identity of the spirit guide. I need its signature frequency in which it came into space-time, where the frequency of light was created. As long as I have its signature frequency of light in which space-time, I can identify the collectives that it's in. Because spirit guides are collectives of collectives of collectives trying to get us to do what? Wake up. The collective knows what hasn't worked, and they're trying to get us to do what we haven't done before, because we're in a whole new undiscovered territory of what transcendence and transformation can really mean to the type of DNA skin suit beings we are. So spirit guides, they come in individual forms of teachings. I still have the times that the crows are cawing outside the door, and I go out and listen to them, and they're their own song. Or the eagles in the sky, or the moles in the front yard, or the whales. Those are all individual human teachers that bring creation, inspiration, dreams, drive forward to write beautiful documents, or to sit in peace with those energies. Angels, star beings, all of them are a collective to me. I've learned that there are a bunch of negatives out there that are still a part of the collective. They're let's just say, a star cluster collective. And there are ways for physical beings in other dimensions, time streams, galaxies, and universes to make themselves physical in our non-physical reality, called a collective, in which I can commune in a non-physical, physical way, bilocate into their unity frequency, and connect to tens of thousands or tens of millions of them. Now, there's not just that one collective. There are thousands of collectives, and in fact, millions of collectives out there. So I am also functioning as a spirit guide at the celestial level, the galactic level, the universal level. Am I the only one doing this? No, there are plenty of people. I'm just defining it in this 26-letter English as a signature frequency teacher of the moment of the now, for you to understand what my colloquial now expression is as a fully present I am being, moment to moment, accepting myself as living in all points of frequency of time, simultaneously existing on 20,000 frequencies of worlds. Reading the Akashic Records simultaneously, bringing the collective here as a collective of precognitive Andrew workforce. That is what I teach in Living the Mystical Life Daily. When you reach the 5th and the 6th week, you get the next layer of teachings that are about how to simultaneously exist, how to make your own precognitive workforce with an infinite amount of yourselves who are not in competition with you, who have direct specific purposes that drive forward why they exist as the duplication to resolve things in the potential precognitive future for you, so that you have the fullness of the unlimited choice. That'll be another cool little clip. Alrighty, let's see if we can get a wheel of caller here that can ask me a physical hard question, a really good one, that is about living the mystical life daily.
Okay, next caller is Angelina from the planet of Cosmic Mortality.
Angelina from Cosmic Mortality. Angelina.
Hear me?
Hello.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. You come just a little closer to the phone?
Sure. Can you hear me okay here?
Yeah, that's much better. Yes.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm trying not to be like starstruck. I'm so honored or grateful to speak with you, Andrew. This is wonderful. Thank you for
How long you been listening
having
for?
me.
How long have you been listening for? Hello? Hello? The gremlins are striking the phones. She still there? Nope.
She's still there, but she's. Right, she muted herself. There we go.
Are you still there?
Hello?
Hello, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you.
How long you been listening for?
Gosh, it's been since 2011, 2012, back then.
Yeah, I didn't come out until October 2012.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So, what did you want to ask? What did you have a special genius question you wanted to ask me about living the mystical life daily?
That's a lot of pressure, but that's a lot of responsibility. But yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to ask you for so long, and I hope it's okay. But because I know that we're all, it's connected and all that, and I've been meaning to ask you, if just what is my purpose here? Like, how can I serve a highest good in but getting a job, or a career? Like, what am I good for?
Why don't you save those questions for the call-in shows? I have the standard answers. Healing yourself. Okay. I'm not crushing you here. I want this show, this Living the Mystical Life Daily webcast, to teach about living the mystical life daily. Your individual purpose is for you to find. You don't always want to find a purpose. So my answer for you is you have to choose to seek purpose and get definition out of what you are already doing, because you have an infinite amount of purposes. You have purpose. Okay?
Right, yeah, because I hear you. I'm just frustrated because I'm taking sterilization classes. Like, I'm sterilizing, I'm taking classes to sterilize medical equipment, and I know that's not where I want to be, and I just wish I knew why I was here, like what I'm good for, or
why don't you call in on the next Tuesday or Saturday show, and we'll put you aside for that. And I'm going to move on to the next caller that's going to ask me a Living the Mystical Life Daily question. I've got to own my own boundary as a teacher here, darling.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah,
so
I understand.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Call.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome. Let's move on to the next caller to see if we got a non-instant gratification, true question for Living the Mystical Life Daily.
Next caller is Shireen from Mumbai.
Shireen from Mumbai.
Hi, Andrew.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you underwater there?
No, I don't think so.
So I know India's
Can you hear me?
India's having another hurricane issue going over there. There was a lot of flooding.
It's cleared now where I am right now. It's cleared, but in the northeast, yes, there's still flooding.
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
So how did you find me? How did you find out about me all the way out in India?
I follow Sethicus Boza's channel. So I saw the video he put up, so I started following your work too.
Wonderful. I'm actually going to be interviewing Seth later today, and we're going to have it up. We're going to have another interview up in a couple days.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
So what question did you have?
Okay, so they talk about two main Earth timelines. One where the original human beings are assimilated, and the other timeline. How do we know what practices, to incorporate daily to move, which timeline it goes towards.
Okay. So the first thing to understand is you want to become a fixed point in space-time. You want to actually be present on all potential timelines, galaxies, and universes. We live in a world where they're trying to make us only exist in this unique time. And it's not our legacy. Our legacy is to exist in all frequencies of time. So what I do as part of Living the Mystical Life Daily, where you are able to assemble all of a set of master time codexes, you discover all of the places that you live. In an out loud statement, you basically say, I choose to discover all frequencies of time that I have lived in, and I make that a signature frequency encoding of time, and I assemble all of these into master codexes of all places of space-time I have lived as a document that represents my frequency of time, and I use that as a comparison and contrast to this subhuman time, this Roman numeral time. And this is how you're able to get off the nipple of what Roman numeral time is. Something that occupies your focus, and once your focus is in it, it is a placebo-driven engine that forces you to believe, and that's the only time. When we detoxify ourselves from time, belying the potential of all other times as part of our ceremony and ritual that ultimately changes the signature frequency of who we are. Cool question. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Andrew.
Yeah. Did you have something else that you wanted to ask when it related to time itself?
Not really. I think I have to think about what you said.
Okay.
So maybe after that.
So when it comes to ritual expression of time, it is the emanation of all time. And inside our Akashic Records is every place we have ever lived as a being of light, and each of those have their own frequency of time. And when we allow that to our awareness, we're able to snip the nuts or neuter or spade time itself as Roman numeral. You take the potency of its more importancy away.
Right. How do we know what practices are going against that or working for that?
Anything that does not give full rights, duties, and responsibilities to each and every sentient being to live their natural, organic, co-creative evolution. Anything that steps on the journey is the difference between what is right and what is wrong. What is forced evolution and what is natural, organic. You break it down. If a religion doesn't give in full rights, duties, and responsibility to both masculine and feminine, it's an incomplete teaching. There are still good teachings within it. It means we must use the a la carte system to find what works for us so that we do not create a sliding moral code.
Right, that makes perfect sense.
Right, and that's ultimately what determines our practices. As long as our practices aren't engaging a sliding moral code, I mean, there are those that, in particular religions, they still do animal sacrifice, cutting the chicken. I'd never do that. Do that. But if that's their culture, I still have to respect it. Okay? Doesn't mean I have to practice it. Does that more any stronger than another? No. It's all still placebo belief based.
Right.
In a spiritually contract-driven world. As an Akashic record reader, that's what I read, spiritual contracts. I make it a joke every now and then privately, like I'm a spiritual lawyer. It's because I understand the contracts of behind the light and the type of experiences they're using a precognitive workforce to create. And there are times linear time gets screwed up and their precognitive workforce has nothing created for you ahead of time. And there you are out in the undiscovered territory of your own soul creating in your own lifetime. That's called free will.
I have a question. I don't know if it would be related to this particular topic you want to address today, but you can tell me if it's not.
Okay.
The animals that are being sacrificed, what sort of soul contracts would they be under that they've given up their
good question.
Freedom at some level?
No, that's a really good question. So animal sacrifice is ancient since the dawn of the caveman days, and every time we've been done that. Those animals in the spirit world are offering service. And many of them are our own spirit guides who have lived thousands of lifetimes before that can be born in that being, come to a form of spiritual awareness, seen and unseen, and knowing that this is a play being played out. That's a big opera. And at the end of it, they pass back onto the spirit world, have a life review of who they actually helped. Okay?
Right.
So that chicken that may be in a ritual that his blood is used, what if it's a healing that takes a person's cancer away? Okay? That's done all the time. Cajun wizards, Bajans, and all them.
Right.
So belief-based system. So what is the contract? Oftentimes, if it's a healing, to heal that being. I'm coming in as a chicken. I'm going to have my head cut off. My blood's going to go in the jar. But it healed Jane that I never got to live a life with. And I promised her I'd do it before the end of 2050. And God damn it, I did it. Had to be a chicken with a head cut off, but I did it.
Right. But if we can heal ourselves, why? Okay, I guess that's not related, but yeah.
It's because it's culture.
I don't get why we sacrifice ourselves.
You need no sacrifice at all, other than your time of investing, self-healing, and self-nurturing, which isn't a sacrifice at all.
An investment.
It's an investment, exactly. A physical and a spiritual investment into the greater good of who you are. That's why ritual and ceremony are so important. And also not getting lost in the ritual or ceremony. That's where so many people coming into this, they're afraid, I'm going to get lost in the ceremony. Well, that's good that you got that focused. Getting lost in the ceremony means you're not having fun with it. And that's where a lot of people, when they start their practice, they don't make fun a part of it. You don't have to be serious next to the altar all the time. I tell spiritual jokes all the time to break the emotions, the seriousness. That's why, again, I bring out them colorful euphemisms.
Right.
So, anything else you want to ask?
No, thank you so much, Andrew.
All right, darling. Thank you so much for calling in, and we'll talk soon again. All right, let me take some questions from the chat. So here's one from Patrick Luca. What would you recommend for those of us who have been guided to stay and face down Hurricane Irma? You're haunted, you're possessed, get the fuck out of there. That's a category motherfucking 5 hurricane. If you think you're going to withstand it, you've got some spiritual freaking ego, dude. Sorry. And that's passion being said to pass on the essence to you that you should not be facing down that hurricane. That's a suicidal process inside you. You are not an adrenaline junkie. You've got hundreds of people that love you. Get the hell out of there. Just like everyone else that thinks they're going to ride out the storm. That's going to be as bad as Andrew, and you're going to get flattened. And you want to see the destruction in the war zone? Is that really what it is? What macabre side of you wants to face down 200-mile-an-hour winds? Sorry. You know how many times I've been asked that? So that is my passionate answer to save your life. Okay, here's one from Laura. How did I learn light language? Choice, practice, investment, recording what my light language was and going back and listening to it, discovering that I could spontaneously create light language and translate it myself if I was in heart-spaced awareness and I was in the forest. If I listened to the light language of a river that was going down and I began emanating it through my heart source, when I left that river, I could re-emanate that energy in a form of light language, which was a direct manifestation. Choice, effort, focus, nahayika chamo kita. The universe is never working against you. Taka manahaka. The universe is always here, present within you, translating direct translations. That is my choice. It was as easy as going from one language to another for me. Being bilingual. I'm a single language being, but I can speak every light language out there. because it's not my brain doing it. It's my heart and brain acting in communion and union with the vocal cords, who are making a manifestation that is recorded as a frequency of memory of light. Light language itself can bypass the creation of memory process. I'm speaking directly to the soul, and the soul is generating the memories, not the biochemical features that are frequency doing it. And that's where people make the leap in logic and leap in understanding of how light language actually works. And that one will be turned into a clip too. Man, I'm full of them today. Mary Hull, are you my soul family? Yes. Actually, everyone here is your soul family. From Morgan, can you talk about gremlins and what you experience with them? It is a catch-all term. Sometimes gremlins are a bunch of negative energetic dust bunnies. You never put on a fresh shirt and all of a sudden, hair just attaches to you, or you rub up against something and you got dust on you. Oftentimes it is dust bunnies or energetic dust bunnies that are creating the gremlins. And at times those dust bunnies, my focus can enhance them, meaning I'm a little emotional up or down that day. And what happens with enhanced dust bunnies? The lines don't work. Sometimes I stub my toe, minor things. Then there are times that it is an external force with external intention of penetration of my reality. I have a variety of fortress-based systems that have infinite herds of horses and unicorns trampling anything that comes down in here. All sorts of other creative euphemistic visions. You can imagine the types of mental defenses that you put up that aren't limitations to me. And it's not that they penetrate. It's like somebody knocking at your door when you're talking and I'm still ignoring them. After a while, the knock, 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 you got to go and, open the door and say, go away, you're not welcome. Click, close the door. My sovereign reality functions as a sovereign reality. So there are times the gremlins manifest in the other ends of the technology at the servers. There's nothing I can do if Google Chrome doesn't work. There's nothing I can do if the Comcast cable's out on their end. That is where they're targeting 1 degree of separation. Ultimately, it's determining if the battle or the journey or the understanding is 1, 2, 3, or 4 degrees of separation. Oftentimes, when there's actually direct interference, it's like 9 or 10 degrees of separation because they want to hide themselves because they know I can find them in time, space, and I can send things after them that do exactly what they're doing out to me. Knock, knock, knock on your door, waiting for a moment you're not paying attention, and then I open the door and flood you full of light instead of them flooding me full of their pollution. Equal co-creation. If I'm playing that particular game, if somebody's trying to do that form of penetration testing in this particular environment. But I also change the fabric of reality rules here frequently, so no single being truly understands the fabric of rules in this particular reality that is this green screen. I've done hundreds of hours of ceremony and ritual in here. Why? Because I knew I'd be broadcasting in here. And I used my awareness with my due diligence to say, this is my place and nothing external can make me struggle within here. All right, so here's one from Yulia. Andrew, I've been looking for a missing piece of a puzzle to fully understand the law of attraction. Perhaps you can explain, clarify that for everyone else here. It seems like on the energetic level, all alike attract alike. That is what spiritual teachers say today. Think, vibrate positive, and you'll attract more and positive vibes to yourself and more people like yourself. So now we're talking signature frequency match. There are times that something can project to you an energy, and you wouldn't even know that this energy has been weaponized in such a way to make you appear that you're a signature frequency of match, so all these dust bunnies can attach to you. So there are some parts to these teachings that are misunderstood. The law of attraction has the law of repulsion also. We are a signature frequency match to tens of millions of things. Well, like I was saying to the other caller before, purpose versus per pi. You have an infinite amount of purposes. You have an infinite amount of signature frequency matches for the moment based off of your level of awareness. Now, when another being comes into your reality and their level of awareness is much greater than yours, what happens there with the law of attraction? What happens there with the signature frequency teaching of the moment? Well, that being is making a choice. Am I using and abusing? Am I staying with my moral code? So on and so forth. All the while, this other being is in complete unknowingness of those choices. There is where the eternal struggle begins in hierarchical order. So many of the beings, at whatever level, compete. And once there is competition, everyone is already lost. Because it's a world of unity. And it's a world of singularity. Each with their own individual signature frequency of time that has a signature frequency match. So when it comes with the law of attraction, there's the seen attraction and the unseen attraction. In your seen world, there is blood that flows through your body that constantly needs to be programmed, that puts off a smell, a pheromone, an energetic pheromone, and a physical pheromone that has all of your attraction and repulsion codes. That is you as the collective consciousness of yourself, of your 128 trillion cells, that makes up the flesh mass DNA instrument experience that you are. Therefore, you, present there, imprint into that blood the law of attraction and law of repulsion. In your seen, now your unseen world. Your unseen world doesn't have your same level of awareness of your seen world does. Until you go down the path of living the mystical life daily, so that your seen world has much as important as your unseen world. That it isn't 99% seen world is the reality I'd hear boo and 1% there. When you get them 50-50, there is when you get whole new perceptions of how the law of attraction works in the seen and the unseen world. It is a single algorithm that is matching the algorithm of your environment, which is matching the algorithm of the planet to create synchronicities at a global or singular scale. Balancing the seen and the unseen world with the law of attraction or repulsion is using the out loud name it to claim it system as a physical manifestation of the defining of the rules, borders, policies, and procedures of how synchronicity comes to you. There are negative synchronicities where so many people, I'm attracted to this person. Oftentimes, you were attracted to a wound within them, which was the signature frequency match. But oftentimes, lust is confused with love because it isn't taught in this world. Therefore, we now come into another point where other people are dumbed down and don't know the true processes of what attraction really is. If we actually had a meter that could tell us if we were in lust or love, God, how this world would change. God, how men would stop being pigs and how women would stop being competing with each other women. The law of attraction is so confused now, not necessarily because of the New Age communities. They're trying to do their best. We have changed so much as a people right now. 50 years ago, we didn't have cell phones and computers. And a third of the world barely could speak one language. Now, 2/3 of the world speak 5 languages and have computers and cell phones. Calculators aren't even really needed anymore like they were in the old days. So that is my answer for that, Yulia. That's a pretty good one, too. I don't know. It's got some clippy clips in it, but... Okay. All right. So here's another one from Laura. What was my biggest difficulty or block to learning my mystical life daily, and how did I overcome it? Each era of my life had a different block. The first one was to not be a workaholic. I started work when I was a young age. My family ran into money problems, so we all had to work. 14 to 18, I worked at a McDonald's from 4:30 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon every Friday, Saturday, Sunday during the school when school was off. And when school was on, I worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, every night, every weekend for 4 years. So I really didn't get to go out as a teenager. I mean, I still had my times, but so it was a very different era for my life. So first was not being a workaholic. Second was what was true self-healing for me and what was self-healing so everyone else could see me the way they wanted. And then, you know, doing conformity stuff, going to the family this and the that, and being fully present there and talking to them even though they didn't care about what was going on in my world. I couldn't share it with them. They weren't ready for it, and I understood that. That was that next process. And then relating to people that would use, who I would share stuff with, that knew that I had special skills and talents to see things before they were going to happen, or whatever else was going on at that particular area. And understanding that there were those that were users, and then those that were true, authentic people. And that I couldn't stereotype people, even though it was necessary as a reading skill to translate into metaphors. So separating what was teaching metaphors versus actuality of meeting people, you know, instantly labeling them as a user because they ask one question up front that is a crossing of my personal boundaries, but that person is so anxious and excited that they didn't care about my boundaries at that moment. And as a human being, counterly, I have to accept they're anxious and excited. Yes, it's great, but my own personal problem is I took a charge from it, and how to instantly depolarize that charge. That was the lesson of eternal patience. So those were ultimately my growth and blocks through living the mystical life daily. Eternal patience, that was not necessarily the hardest one. It's an endurance game. It's just what it is. It's just a plain endurance game. And knowing that negative beings will test you. It's a part of this world. I don't play in their field, but when I do play in this field and they try to come onto my field, I know how to use the peacekeeper frequency so that they think they're on the field, but they're actually in a dream world completely separate of me, not exchanging energy with me. I know as a being I can do that, and that's a legacy of every single being on this world. That no matter what comes into your journey to step on it, you can create a dream world that has all the energy behind it, so that being that's doing that resolves it through the dreaming mind of Earth, and it's never entangled with my energy. Now that little metaphor of the person coming up and stepping on my journey, eternal patience, was forgive them. They know not what they do. But then there comes the times there are those that are truly aggressive, and many of you kind of know what I mean. They will step on somebody else's journey and forehead somebody in the back, forearm somebody in the back to get to that front of that line. Now I encounter a lot of those people. And those are the trolls that make comments about how I personally look, or the teachings calling me crazy. You know, the amount of troll comments that I get in a given day are funny. Personal attacks from whole communities because I said something that they don't like the recurrent revaluation of the currency will never happen, or saying that, you know, the aliens aren't going to come tomorrow, and that I did a entire, marathon, 17-hour marathon in December 21st, 2012, titled Nothing's Going to Happen Tomorrow. The aliens are coming. The RV's not going to happen. The earthquake's not going to happen. Whatever destructive fantasy you have isn't going to happen. Because I was challenging fear porn. So those are some of the things that I discover. And then there are, the religious people who are great, but are still a zealot stuck in one frequency. Those are actually easier to deal with than the zealot. I want to give this the right language, a colorful euphemistic expression. The Puritan, zealot, retired light workers who try to run this world, who use their puritanical, retired beliefs of another era of light and try to imprint them on you, who will do that to everyone they live with. Their Facebook feed has all of this instant gratification pictures and stuff. I'm doing this. My cat just took a fart, telling their whole life to be public. Yet that retired woman has no idea. There's billions of people that are doing that. And you're just showing off in your little tight shorts. Okay, they don't realize that is those puritanical retired women who are trying to enforce an industry. You can look at all the demographics. It's the women between 50 and 65 who buy all the product, who watch all the shows, who are spread throughout the country. Truth of the industry. My audience is 50% male, 50% female, unlike anything else out in the industry. So those puritanical imprints, that was hard to deal with. Really, really hard. Because I had to reject those people who believed they were good people, but they were actually just charismatic manipulators, spiritual used car salesmen. That's it. Their brand is the only brand to follow, and if you don't follow my brand, I'm putting you under the bus. You probably know a bunch of them like that. On your phone call, they're your friend, but publicly they're your enemy. I experienced that a lot from people who call themselves healers. That was hard to deal with. Until I learned to shut it off. You know, the amount of, how many stories, the whole life stories that come to me every day. Maybe one day I'll reach into the big bag of thousands of life stories, that are basically saying, if you don't give me a free reading, I'm going to kill myself. What do you think that does to me? Or to my PA reads it? I'm not going to give a reading if you're going to kill yourself. It's not my responsibility, and I'm not your keeper. I'm not your watcher. Learn to love yourself. Oftentimes, those never get responses. So those are some of the hard ones to deal with. Okay, next question. Let me see. Guest 6104. Andrew, I have used the purse swatting unwanted energy several times since you spoke about it on one of the webcasts. Thank you. I got to say, that is one of my personal favorites too. It was something that was spiritually in the moment, coming from the guide of that being that I was reading, that it was absolutely vital that there be a purse with a brick in it. Again, it was truly humorous for myself. So yes, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. And I believe that was the August the 24th webcast. Or radio show, sorry. So, Goldie, are the hurricane paths related to the slave trade routes? Absolutely, yes, they are. And the dark ritual and magic that took the gold from Mesoamerica, stored it on those islands where the dark rituals were put on it. So when it was taken back to Europe, it had the curses put on it so it could be formed into the Babylonian money curse. Ta-da! Another sets of puzzle pieces falling in, ring-a-ding-ding, puzzle pieces falling everywhere. And then it's the whole Dreamtime invasion and the, let's just say, time travel stuff that was done there, off-world or on-world, gates, portals, all the demonic shit that those people did on Haiti, Cuba, Barbados, all of that shit. Guess what? Those were the islands that were the tops of mountains in a previous era. Or islands that are just one giant crystal. They knew what they were doing. That was surrounded in an ocean that created hurricanes on a cyclical basis. There was an era in which those islands were giant psychic batteries powering ceremonial belief engines that changed the world. So there you go. Yes, it did. Stay tuned to my continuing series with Andre Hodge, Servant of Truth. It is up on the YouTube channel right now called Age of Resolution. All right. I want to thank everyone for coming to this Living the Mystical Life Daily webcast. Now this is the moment where I'm going to sell to you. Da-da-da-da-da-da! That's right. You can join the Living the Mystical Life Daily 6-week online course, 25 hours total in teaching, just like what you've heard from the last 15 webcasts. Out loud, name it to claim it system that helps you define in time-space who and what you are. Here's your opportunity. If you do enroll now, you'll get your teachings dripped out to you once per week, taking you all the way up the chain. Take up the challenge. Click below, and I'll see you in the course.
Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.